Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ksenia, and in today's video I would like to talk about an author that really impressed me this year, and I'm talking about Liang. Liang writes YA romances and in general YA books, and I've read about 4 or 5 of them, and all of them really impressed me. So now every time I need something really easy, I'm feeling sad or down or whatever, and I need to lift my spirits, I'm going to turn to Anne Liang. I honestly swore off romances a while ago because I think in my time, when I was like around 13 years old, I read quite a lot of books like this, so it's really hard to impress me. And when I saw the pretty cover of If You Could See the Sun, I realized that this might be the one to get me back into young adult, and actually it was. So my first Anne Liang book was If You Could See the Sun. This is a story of Alice Sun, who is going to this elite Beijing private school, and she's there on a scholarship and surrounded by all of these really wealthy people, and she doesn't really feel like she belongs. She always feels like she has to compete for what she has in there. And one day when she comes back to school for her senior year, she realizes that she can turn invisible. She doesn't know how this happened, how to stop it, and she cannot control it. It happens just out of the blue, but now it does. And the only person she can turn to for help is her sworn enemy and rival, Oliver. I have to check his name. Henry. Oh my god, yes. Henry is the only one Alice can turn to for help to figure out her invisible situation. This is what the book is centered around. I honestly couldn't let it go. I think I read it in like 4 days. I was sick, so I had a lot of time to spare. Really funny of me to remember that I was sick and how many days it took me to read this book, but did not remember the main character's name. Well done. The worries Alice was feeling, I remember myself feeling this too. And it's actually a lot of high achieving teenagers are this way. And Liang did such a great job at describing what it's like to be a teenager and actually giving such an accurate image of Alice's inner world as well as the outer world around her. This atmosphere of Beijing's private school. It felt like I could relate to Alice and how she felt. So this book was definitely a great start into her books, and I recommend it. I think these stories are so light and so interesting and gripping that no matter how you feel about the young adult or romance genre, you will enjoy them. So the second book I read by En Liang was I Hope This Doesn't Find You, and this is about Sadie, who was writing hate emails to her whole school that she never sent to express her anger. And one day she leaves her laptop unlocked on her desk, and when she comes back to class, every email she's ever written is sent out to the whole school, including her sworn enemy and competitor, whose name I don't remember again. Julius. Yay, Julius, who she wrote probably the most of her hate emails. This book has an insanely similar vibe as to all the boys I've loved before. If I found this book and if it were released when I was around 13 years old, I would have gone crazy because I was obsessed with To All the Boys I've Loved Before. I watched all the movies on repeat and I really loved Lara Jean's story. But I read this too late, so for me it was a little predictable, and I guess the plot twist kind of really fast, but it was still a really funny read, and again, fun to read. I got through it really fast. I love that Anne Liang's books are really, really easy. You flow through them really fast. Even if you're not a fast reader, they're really easily digestible. So I Hope This Doesn't Find You was also really entertaining, and it was less impressive as If You Could See the Sun, but it was still a worthy read. And recently a sequel, a sequel came out, I Hope This Finds You, about Julius's and Sadie's life in college, but I haven't read it yet. And if you are looking for a gift or something to give to a 13-year-old who likes reading or doesn't like reading but you want them to read, give them an Liang book, and preferably this one, because I think teenage girls, early teenagers, will go crazy. Yeah, this time it's real. This is my favorite Liang book for no reason in particular. I don't have an actual argument to present why it's my favorite. I love it. In this story, we read about Eliza, who's an inspiring writer, and she has to move a lot because her parents move a lot for work. And she has to switch schools really often, and one day when she has to switch schools in her senior year, a little later than the start of the academic year, she falls behind and she has to rush to submit her assignment for English class. And for this assignment, she writes a love story that then goes viral online, making the whole world believe that Eliza herself has an amazing, perfect K-drama style love story, which is non-existent. So now Eliza has to make the whole internet believe that she does have a perfect love story. In her school, there is a really famous actor, teenage actor Kaz, so she decides who else can be the perfect fake boyfriend that could make the whole internet believe that he's her boyfriend. Of course, a teenage actor Kaz, a really successful, handsome guy who plays in Chinese dramas and has the whole world in love with him. So this is what we read about. And for some reason, this one was one of my favorites. I think it was one of the funniest. I really loved the dialogue. And the story itself didn't feel, even for a moment, boring. It was really entertaining and interesting. I would recommend this one definitely. Plus, the plot of an aspiring writer is something I loved reading because this is who I am. I am also an aspiring writer, an aspiring author. So reading about Eliza and her being one too was also a really pleasant experience. And also, this book kind of felt like a 12-episode K-drama. And I'm into K-dramas lately, especially these really funny, whimsical ones with 12 episodes. And this is probably the best comparison I can give it. But because Liang is Chinese and her books are set in China, it would be probably more accurate to say C-dramas, but I haven't checked any out, so I can't say anything about them. Never thought I'd end up here. I think this is one of the most recent releases. Put a finger down if you started filming a video and forgot to check if your phone is even charged and your phone turned off in the middle of the video and you spend another 20 minutes talking to the walls. We're back to Liang's amazing books. I was talking about Never Thought I'd End Up Here. Leah, who grew up in LA, and once she embarrasses herself on her cousin's Chinese wedding when she cannot even put together a toast to congratulate the bride and the groom, she gets sent to a enriching summer program to reconnect with her heritage. She meets her childhood enemy, bully, Cyrus, who happens to also be on that trip, and we follow them along on their journey there. It is actually not the most memorable Liang book for me. I do not know why, but it did not really stick to me, but it was still a fun experience reading it. Especially I loved when they were going around different places in China, and there were also little quests they had to do, and I loved reading about this. This was pretty interesting. I read it really fast. I think I read it on my road trip, so it did kill time well. Overall, it fits perfectly into the Liang world and universe. I even would say that it's even a little different from all of the other novels I've read because they do not follow an elite Beijing school or academic competitiveness. It is of course mentioned because it's probably something every high school senior is going through, so you cannot really ignore the pressure of college applications and exams, but it's just taking a different turn than, for example, If You Could See the Sun or This Time It's Real. Though they're completely different stories, they do follow a similar pattern, and in Never Thought I'd End Up Here, this pattern is slightly disrupted and it's fun. I liked this book for it. for the time being, my last Liang book I read, and that would be I'm Not Jessica Chen. My most recent read. I read it for my 24-hour reading marathon, which you can also watch on my channel. And I am so glad I picked it because I was able to get through this book in about 5 hours. It was so captivating and interesting. So we follow Jessica Chen, who is a high school senior, but she doesn't think that she's good enough compared to her perfect cousin Jessica. She is a nobody. She's not remarkable. She's not the prettiest, not the best student, and she spends her life being jealous in the shadow of Jessica, her cousin. And one night, Jenna makes a wish to be Jessica Chen. And what do you think? The next morning, our Jenna wakes up as Jessica in her bed, in her house. Now she's the rich, the pretty, the most envied girl at the entire school. And this is where the story begins. It was so intriguing to read about Jenna becoming Jessica because I was so interested in how it would all play out in the end. Because another additional element of the story that forces Jenna to think if she actually enjoys being Jessica is the fact that while she is Jessica and she's living the life she's always dreamed of, Jenna as a person starts disappearing. She is not remembered. She's slowly drifting away from the memory of everybody, even her own parents. So this is a dilemma Jenna has to go through in the book. And the only person who seems to remember that Jenna existed and that she suddenly disappeared is Aaron, her childhood friend, her crush that went away a couple of years ago for a medical program in Paris, and she never saw him again. I loved the character dynamics in this book and actually the whole story. It was really, really interesting. I love the fact that there is a slight intrigue to Jessica being so perfect because there are these hints that show us that nothing is as perfect as it seems. And I love this parallel between these two cousins and how it all turned out to be in the end. So from Liang's books, this would probably be one of my favorites. I loved the magical realism in it and the way it was approached, the storyline. There was this really beautiful element. It was Jenna's self-portrait that she made for an art exhibition, and how the longer she stays as Jessica, the more blurred the self-portrait becomes. In the end of the book, you can't even distinguish that there is a person in there. They're just slight shapes of a figure. It was so really lyrical and metaphorical. I loved it. For now, for the time being, this was my last book by Liang. I am waiting for the new release, I Could Give You the Moon, because it's the sequel to If You Could See the Sun, and I'm also excited to read A Song to Drown Rivers, which is a fantasy, so I expect it to be different from the contemporary books Liang wrote. I believe it will be exciting. So I can actually film a reading vlog, so comment if you want a reading vlog of me reading A Song to Drown Rivers. I actually, as I said already, probably a lot of times, and you probably figured it out, I love Liang's books. They kind of are an escape for me because they are so teenage, and they're these things that I didn't have an opportunity of living as a teenager, like first crush, school problems, these really obvious things that I didn't really have the opportunity of living through, and I'm living through them in Liang's books. And I really love just escaping into the Liang universe. And I really recommend you give these books a try, to give this author a try. A good young adult with actual teenage problems and teenage reality. You can enjoy it. These are really enjoyable and they really help you unwind. And this is what I love in Liang's novels. And I am waiting for new books, and I really wish her the best on her writing journey. So this was probably it, everything I could say for now about Liang's books, but I actually really wanted to share my opinion and my take on these books. I hope I inspired you to go at least Google Liang and her books and try reading one, because they are worth it and they are popular for a reason, so I really wanted to spend some time talking about Liang and her books on my channel. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching until the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye! See you in next videos.